So my name is Nick Allen. I am the managing partner of the Savant Venture Fund. Savant is a deep tech and hardware fund and incubator based in South Africa. We've been incubating businesses in the hardware space since 2004, and we've been investing in them through partnerships with the Technology Innovation Agency and other agencies in South Africa since 2015, and through our own venture fund since 2019, and starting to look at what's happening in the rest of the continent. And so we'll be talking about the hardware component of what we do. There were some questions and queries as to whether we were going to see the Savant patented deep tech analyzer in today's presentation, but we won't, because it is a hardware presentation. We would have brought our Savant patented hardware analyzer, but they wouldn't let it on the plane. So unfortunately, we'll get our ducks in a row and our necessary approvals in place before we head to the next one. So the first thing is, what is hardware? Obviously, it's a physical product, and I think it's clear that physical products are important to us because we live in a physical world. So we need more innovation in that space, and we're looking for sufficient innovation to look at to define something as a hardware technology startup. And we're specifically not looking for companies that are installing imported innovation. Just we want to work with companies that are innovating on the hardware level. That's really important to us. So obviously, why is hardware important? Again, we live in a physical world. It has a huge impact on environmental sustainability. Anybody with a PV panel on their roof and a battery pack, knows that they are not burning coal. That's a key consideration. We will invest in a number of very innovative hardware solutions doing biogas and other environmental power solutions. They're the foundation. Everything needs to run on a hardware platform. It gives us the opportunity to run software. 10 years ago, we saw very few businesses that we worked with that have a software angle to them. Today, pretty much everything that we have has a very strong software component to them, which is, it's added a level of complexity to a very complex environment already. But that's just the nature of hardware. And it drives innovation. Again, it creates an environment in where innovation can take place. So what did we look at? We partnered. We got a lot of information from the guys at Brighter, and what we got over the last 8 years was quite interesting. We've found $3,200 million invested in hardware technology or hardware on the continent in 447 deals, making up 16% of the VC deals on the continent. And to be honest, that was a bit of a surprise to me. I was like, wow, that's a lot bigger than anticipated. And so we dug into those numbers a little bit, and we went back to understanding what exactly we look for in a hardware technology business, and going back to the point of, is this innovation that's happening on the continent, or is this imported technology just being installed? And one of the things that we did find is that there's a lot of, in that $3.2 billion, there's a great deal of a PV installation. Guys doing fantastic work, but not necessarily meeting our criteria. So we look to take that out of the equation and see what the numbers look like. The other side of things, we came across one or two mega deals that had a huge impact on these numbers, and weren't, in our views, necessarily African companies. The one in particular was Zipline, which on its own comprised about $800 million of that $3.2 billion. So if we go closer into the numbers, we get to the point where over that period, only $268 million has been invested in deep tech and hardware, specifically hardware on the continent in that 8-year period. So it is a very small amount. However, what's really interesting is, despite the fact that it's so small, over the period from 2015 to 2021, and we stopped it at 2021 specifically because of the downturn in 2022. The number or the value of the amount invested in those hardware startups had increased by 50 times. Also interesting is that the number of startups invested in, or the number of VC investments into hardware, had increased 10 times. However, the value, so there's more money going into more businesses, which is a great trend. I was thinking about the comment made yesterday in the keynote about where the fintech investment environment was 10 years ago, and this is something that resonates. It's a small number but growing very rapidly, and showing great opportunity, great promise. Where's all this happening? Again, before we looked at the impact of mega deals on these numbers, Rwanda with 80 investments over that 8-year period was far and away the highest because of that one single investment. But when we look at the true innovation in hardware on the continent, we see, unsurprisingly, Kenya, South Africa, Egypt, and Nigeria dominating, again, the big four in the space. And I think there's probably not a great deal of surprise to see that Kenya, South Africa are by far the biggest, the most dominant players on the continent. Going into what's happening locally, going into the sectors, again, not particularly surprising. Clean tech dominating, health and biotech, mobility, these are the key issues that hardware startups are looking to solve across the continent, and they are clearly getting the biggest, the most investment in that space. Interesting from a data perspective, we see a deep tech number of $9 million. I think what's from a numbers and a statistics perspective, it'd be really interesting to make sure that as we go on and we need to delve into these numbers in more detail, we need to get a better understanding of or recording of what exactly a deep tech or a hardware startup is, and make sure that we understand exactly where those investments are going. So that's the total investment. We thought it'd be interesting to look at what's happening in West Africa. Again, not surprising, Nigeria dominating with almost $20 million. Benin, Ghana, not surprised on Ghana. I don't know Benin very well, so it is an interesting surprise. Senegal, $31 million into 8 deals, but those were into solar infrastructure investment. So there's a clear lack of hardware innovation happening in the Senegalese area, and it probably goes to the question is, what do we do about it? We have a nascent hardware environment. We have lots of innovative companies. I think the lack of investment over the period, or the shortage of investment over the period, is not driven by the lack of innovation. It's driven by the lack of funding availability and the lack of ecosystem support for the companies that are working in that environment. So yeah, looking to see more support. I think Philip made a comment earlier about sector-specific support for these kinds of startups, and in order to provide an environment in which a hardware startup can succeed, you do need to provide that level of support. Where were we in 2022? So this number includes solar infrastructure and mega deals, and I think we did that just to demonstrate where we stand from the perspective of global VC, and that's a 0.35 percentage point of global VC going into African hardware, even with mega deals and solar infrastructure included. So there's, we've got a long way to go, I believe. Decent growth rate from 2021. I think what is an important discussion point is what do we do about it? I don't know if anybody has any questions, any things to comment on? Have I run out of time already? No. All right. Is there any questions on this issue? Any insights?
Any question for Nick about hardware? I think that it's very critical to work around what we need to develop on hardware. So,
hi, thank you very much, Nick. It was very insightful. I will be happy to have a little bit more details on the health tech side, especially that you mentioned the clean tech. I do believe that health tech is still a hybrid, let's say, sector when sometimes you need capex, but also some, let's say, SaaS solutions. So we'll be happy if you can share your views about this sector.
The health tech sector. I think that given the fact that there's lots of health challenges within the continent, there are clearly lots of innovations. I think having a chat to somebody earlier about supply chain, cold chains for agricultural products. I think that that is just as relevant in the pharmaceutical space. So in it, we've seen innovation around providing cold chains in the pharmaceutical space. So without a doubt, there's lots of need, there's lots of opportunity. When there are challenges in an area, there are going to be needs and opportunities to develop capacity around those. We've invested in a number of hardware health tech opportunities in South Africa, and I'm pretty confident we're going to see plenty of those across the continent. There's no doubt.
Okay, so I want to know the type of hardware in the waste management sector that you do invest in. Is it like sensors on trucks or like on the baling machines? So I want to know which.
We'll invest in pretty much any hardware. So when Savant started, we had come out of an environment looking specifically at medical devices and biotech. And while we were working at that, in that environment, we saw a great deal more innovation going on in areas around that, and nobody serving that, nobody providing those innovators with the support that they needed to go to market. So we're open to investing and supporting any innovation that is solving a real problem with hardware innovation. We want to see differentiation. We want to see people solving real problems using their capability, capacity, and understanding to solve those problems. So if you've got a solution, we're very, very keen to see it.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. My name is Maxime. I'm a partner at SeedStars Africa Ventures. So we invest early pre-Series A, Series A, but we like to look at these models that have a little bit more hardware or capex. And one of the issues that we see is that let's say the earlier stage VC scene is typically not very well suited, especially in Africa, to go on these types of models. And so where we've had success is to actually work with more traditional, let's say, infrastructure or private equity funds that had a bit more of an innovative view or envelope, let's say, to put in early stage deals with us or with others. And so I just want to get your view, I guess, for everyone also, the view of what is the interactions between the different types of investors that we have on the continent in filling this gap. Like, what can we do together with traditional private equity funds that can invest in factories, that can invest in much larger capex, And what is our role as VCs to help them do that?
Yeah, yeah, investing in hardware is always a long and a difficult journey. As we always say, hardware is hard. Well, I had that conversation at lunchtime actually, and yeah, our job as early stage VCs, we invest pre-seed and seed. Our job is to de-risk these companies as much as possible, get them to a point where they've demonstrated unit economics that work, demonstrated that they have business models that work, and then try and ensure that they are introduced and are, yeah, we can partner with those funders that particularly can find that CapEx funding, those big pots of cash that they need to grow their hardware, because it is expensive. That, you know, the balance sheet always looks very, very tricky, you know, in these businesses because they need a lot of cash to grow. So yeah, our job is to go and partner with and find those financiers who have got innovative models to provide the kind of funding that these businesses need. And often it needs to be funding that is not dilutive, because otherwise everybody else that gets in, you know, gets diluted to nothing. I mean, ultimately it needs to be some level of interesting debt model, or otherwise a revenue-based funding. You know, the likes of Jim Chu at Untapped Global got some interesting models that he's trying to push through to there. That I think there are people looking at innovative ways to fund hardware to allow these hardware businesses to scale, and it is, you know, it's up to us as VCs to ensure that we build the businesses to the point where they are able to raise the funding that they need to scale. So it's a concentration on unit economics that work, business models that work, teams that can scale these businesses, so that when we go and present these to other investors, that it looks and feels like something that they are confident to put their money into. Thanks for the question.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Thanks a lot for this very interesting keynote. Maybe a round of applause for Nick Allen. Thanks a lot. You can put it here.